What if everything you thought was holding you back as a builder was actually your best opportunity?
The biggest thing that you'll learn is that you're an easy target as a builder.
By who?
Neighbours, council, authority bodies, disgruntled people driving past, walking past.
When we talk to your clients, they've had the most amazing journey with you. That doesn't just happen.
When I say I'm going to do something, I'm doing it. Even if I've got a change of heart or change of plans or something like that, it's like, no, I've got to do it. I said I would. If there's one thing that you can just put 5%, just a little bit more effort in every day, it's that willingness to get back to a client or an inquiry or a neighbour, because all those little moments in time pay dividends.
The engine room. What goes on under the hood in Secon and what allows you to operate at the level you guys operate at. It's like, cool.
It's called liquid gold for a reason.
Yeah.
Because
In this third podcast with Peter from Secon Constructions, we dive deeper than ever before to unpack the engine room heritage renovation business to operate at the highest level. While most businesses struggle with callbacks and pricing pressure, Peter's built a reputation where clients text him years later just to say thank you. In this podcast episode, we dive into the consistency principle that's helped Peter build a solid reputation in his market. His 50-plus page quotation process that eliminates prizes and builds bulletproof trust. The liquid gold moments that can make or break your reputation, and positioning yourself in your niche to allow for a greater level of growth and enjoyment. This isn't about building techniques. It's about building a business that clients remember, refer, and return to. Fair warning, Peter holds nothing back. This is the blueprint.
Peter, podcast number 3. Thank you very much. The first podcast happened by chance, which was great. Yeah. You and Andre ran into each other on the beach. And then the second one we did last year with you on site down in Melbourne. Yeah. And that was pretty cool. Just hearing more of that backstory to, I think, well, from my opinion, what has made Peter, and then how that is played out on site in the business and that sort of thing. Yeah. Today, we've had those discussions, so today I want to look at something a little bit different with you. Because we've now worked together for quite a while, we've learned a lot from observing and watching, talking to your clients, and it's been really insightful. And just through all the conversations you and I have had. And so today I wanted to look at sort of 2 main areas. One is consistent, and that is definitely a word our whole team would attribute to you, consistent.
Yep.
And so I wanted to unpack what that means to you. And then the other thing I'm really excited to unpack with you is the engine room. What goes on under the hood in Secon and what allows you to operate at the level you guys operate at. What allows, when we rock up and shoot, everything looks like it's running nice and smooth. When we talk to your clients, they've had the most amazing journey with you. That doesn't just happen. That doesn't just play out that way.
Click your fingers and then it's done.
Yeah,
that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
That would be nice. I was watching, there's a guy I watch on YouTube, and he has this thing that he's now become known for because he goes out camping and hiking, and he throws his tent and it goes.
Oh, that'd be nice, wouldn't
that be nice? Yeah. And so now that's the joke on site.
We do that with houses. Yeah.
And then in his videos, everyone else who comes along on these hikes with him, they're like, let me try. And it just never works. And so he's edited the video so that no one else will do it, but for him it always works. So yeah, if we can maybe jump straight into that. When, for yourself, the topic of consistency, or that idea of consistency, what does that mean to you in business and life?
I think a couple of things, like you got to have a set of values or principles that you operate and essentially live by. One of my things has always been, and I think it drives my wife crazy sometimes, is that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. Even if I've got a change of heart or change of plans or something like that, it's like, no, I've got to do it. I said I would. So you always follow through. And that's just consistently showing up because you said you would, consistently delivering that customer service, consistently, if you say to a trade, I'll meet you at 9, you're meeting him at 9, no matter what. You just you hold your word. What you say you're going to do, you follow through with. And I think, especially now, I guess, there's a lot of people I guess, or there's a lot of everything around in society now is mediocre.
Yeah.
So it's not hard to just show up and do what you're supposed to do, and all of a sudden you look like, they're like, thanks for calling me back. I'm like, why wouldn't I call you back? I said I would. Like, just little things like that. I think that's important, and it all comes back to just your principles and values.
That is very true. In terms of, if we dive down more into that idea of consistency, one of those areas would be, well, actually, let's go with what you said earlier. If you say you're going to do it, then you do it. And that's definitely something we've observed. That's how, if you say you're going to be there, you're there. And if you say this is the date, book it in the calendar, then we nail it that date.
Yep.
What do you think that has accomplished or helped you achieve or has meant? I think we've now known each other for 5 years. Having done it for so long, what do you see your experience now because of that being in place?
I think reputation.
Yeah.
We've got a good reputation of delivering not just quality projects, but the customer service. Like it's one thing to be able to, like, there's a lot of good builders out there. There's a lot of guys that great craftsmen that can, deliver an exceptional product. But it's the follow-up and it's the service at the front end, the service through the project, and service at the back end, and service beyond into the warranty period. That it's just so that's all reputation. It all comes down to customer experience, and your customer experience is going to then refer you. And without that, you don't really have anything. You're only good as your last project. Well, problem is your last project as builders, we got to warrant it technically 10 years.
Yeah.
So that customer service has to last for 10 years. Whether you had a good client or a bad client, or you agree with their values or you don't, at the end of the day, they're your client, and you still got to show respect. And at the end of the day, they're still a customer that you've got to deliver customer service to.
That is really nice to hear. And that is so true. I mean, and that comes under that consistency topic, that idea of, because if your warranty's got to last 10 years. And I mean, the nice thing we know with you is you don't build just for it to last, 10 years in one day.
No.
It's built to last another, the homes you work on have been around for 100, 150 years. And so you're building it so to last for another 150 years.
Yeah.
I spoke to a builder ages ago. We helped him with some of his stories, and then we, the next thing is, all right, let's help you get it out there. Let's help you start using it.
Yeah.
And there's a whole range of things. One of the areas we would recommend, very small area, is why don't you send your story, or all your stories, but one by one. But why don't you send it to past clients and just say, hey, thank you so much. You've been a part of this story, and just reminding them of, we still have a relationship here, and I still value you as a past client.
Yep.
And you never know what opportunity comes from that. Just reminding them about how good that was.
Yeah.
I've heard plenty of guys do that, and the client gets back in touch and says, you know what? I know we said that build was our last build, our forever home, but
life changes, right? Like,
yeah,
and that's why you never burn a bridge, because your referrals are your strongest point of inquiry almost. Marketing is good, and to get you out there and get your brand out there, but that social referral, that's acceptance from someone and saying and pushing your name out there.
Yeah,
I mean, that's powerful.
Yeah,
so you go.
No, I was going to say that's an excellent point you raised there, and I think that's one area where consistency is so important. So that if someone says, "Yeah, Peter's, you got to go talk to Peter. Peter's built our home. It's fantastic," or we've interacted with Peter, he's good. Chat with him. Your ability to turn up to that interaction with that next person, and how you interact with that person is so important. Just to be, it's way easier to be consistent rather than how was our last time? What did they do there? Whereas if you're just the same person, then you just keep being the same person, and that instantly when they interact with you and they have the same experience up front that has been described to them, that just affirms them and builds huge trust to go, oh, this person is exactly who I've expected them to be. That's a huge box tick and can instantly build a lot of trust.
Yeah, and it's showing up, being yourself, obviously, but then being that problem solver, being that person that's, what's your issues? All right, okay, yeah, so or show me what you want to achieve. Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They just want someone to be able to show up and go, all right, what's all your problems? Okay, tick, tick, tick. Yep. Okay, yeah, I can sort that for you.
I'm glad you raised that, because that's a big one, that solutions orientated sort of person or builder. How does that look? I mean, I'm sure I know we'll dive in more of that, but while we're here, dive into what does that approach look like? Because it can be very easy when you've done 100 of these homes.
Yeah.
You know, you live it and breathe these heritage homes. Next one comes along. It could be so easy for you to go, yeah, we know what we're doing. Yeah. What allows you to stop that and actually still ask the questions and not act, because it is genuine, be inquisitive to make sure you understand?
I think every project is different. They're all very similar depending on, like everyone sort of usually wants the same sort of formula with master ensuite, cut off the old renovation at the back and extend on, fix up all the rising damp or any other issues. But you got to play to the person. You can't just be, it's not just the same questionnaire over and over, because you got to walk in, meet them. Mm-hmm. Okay, you see their kids, meet their kids. How old are they? Sort of get a feel for who they are as a family, how they operate. Okay, talk to me about what you want to achieve.
Yeah,
you know, what's important to you. Mm-hmm. Is it energy efficiency? Is it cost? Mm-hmm. Is it you know, your son's in a band and you want that space for him, or he's in year 12 and you want that. You know, it's all these, like, you got to work to the situation of the family or the client. And then you can dive a little bit deeper and go, all right, so tell me your problems. Then you're sort of abstracting that information from them. You're seeing the property as it is. And then you're compiling a scope of work essentially in your head to go, all right, I can resolve all this for you, but let's be realistic. What's your budget? Yeah. Because like, and I always say to the same clients, don't hold back. Give me I call it the hamburger with a lot. Give me everything, the beetroot, the onion rings, everything. Tell me what your whole package is, and then we can talk about budget where it sort of lands. Yeah. And then sometimes it's a reality check. Yeah. 99% of the time. I sort of crush their soul a little bit with a price or an estimate where it'll sit, and then it'll go from there and go, oh, but we can do these. What's most important? What's the non-negotiables? Because they're usually the first things that happen. You think yourself and you buy a property. Yep. At some point, you're going to go, you need to sort out this heating and cooling, or, geez, we need a bigger kitchen. Or like everyone's got the non-negotiables, and that's where the renovation or the dream of renovating or building a new home will start. It's those big ticket items, and then it'll flow from there. Okay, it would be nice.
While we're doing that, we might as well do this.
Right. Okay, let's go back to the base. What's the non-negotiables, and then go from there.
Yeah, one thing that we actually shared online just the other day with some of our content was the importance of focusing on the relationship, because in today's climate, almost guaranteed the price is going to come in over budget when you give them an initial costing. Yep. How important is it to build the relationship first, so when that does happen, it's not a run, ghost you, but rather, Peter, that's over budget. Yep. We really want to do this, and we want to do it with you. How do we move towards a solution?
It doesn't always go the way I'd like it to go sometimes. So it usually builds in that you build trust first.
Okay. How do you go about doing that?
Well,
because I know you're very intentional with that.
It's a filtering process first, but obviously the marketing helps, because all the videos, all the stories that we create, usually the clients have watched it, or the leads have watched it a couple of times, so they sort of know roughly what we're going to talk about when we meet. Meet them, and then it's just an open conversation, being yourself, like you said, just doing all the right things, and then having the conversation goes, guys, I'm not here to screw you over. Like, you tell me what you want to achieve, and I'll be realistic with you. All I ask is that you're upfront and honest with me, and I'll be the same back. Yeah. Okay, there's no formula to it. It's just pretty much just showing up, listening to what they want, and then just being honest and giving them honest feedback. Like, at the end of the day, I'm not there to be a salesman and try and sell them a dream that I can't deliver on. Yeah.
Because I can imagine sometimes when you're that up front at the beginning, honest about things, it doesn't go ideal. They don't go, oh, no problem. We've got a open-ended check, Peter.
Never goes that way.
No. But because of that consistent communication and being up front, compared to, let's say, other guys out there who try and make it, oh, yeah, totally, yeah, we can do that, awesome. And we all know.
Yeah, deliver a quote on 2-pager and just says, yeah, but what's it exclude?
Yes.
So I think what we find is that the honesty up front, and because usually in that initial discussion, when they've told us what they want to achieve, they want to know roughly what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
And
absolutely. That's in everyone's mind.
Of course.
Yeah.
Can we afford it? Can we not? And that's where we have the discussion. Like, listen, you probably can't afford all of this, but we can stage it, or we can. There's way, depending on the project, there's ways to deliver part of it, or or what we call the non-negotiables of it.
Yes.
So there's ways around it, and it's just giving them that time to consume that, and then I'll send them an email after a meeting saying, as discussed, for this, and this, rough budget of roughly 1.5, whatever it is. They usually take a bit of time to digest that.
Yeah.
Or if they can financially make that work, then they'll come back and But 5-6 years ago, or pre-COVID, it was like, have the discussion. It's going to cost about this. Okay. Yep. What's the next steps? Now, obviously with the inflation of building is so high now, especially in Victoria.
I imagine now with that, there would be a huge temptation to lose consistency there. And be like, oh, maybe I could say something different to help move this along, or
and there's a lot of guys that are doing it, like, everyone's hungry for work because work's drying up.
Yeah.
So the challenge has always been to be 2 years ahead for me in terms of winning work, and because it takes so long to get permits. Mm-hmm. So while you're finishing off 2, you should have another permit ready to go for another 1 or 2. Mm. So, but to get to that point, you got to think 2 years ahead of a lead time of to get permits, plans, and everything sorted, especially on the heritage Victoria stuff, because how long's a piece of string? How long it takes to get through council? And then you get an objection, and so you got to have that factor in. So, of late, because the inflation of building is so high, it's become a lot more competitive, and people want to get what they want done to their homes, but why? If I'm $500,000 more expensive than the next guy, who isn't going to go look at the other? Like, it's
very logical.
But also, and it might be like, well, he might not be as good, or we don't really know how reputable he is. But I mean, it's $500,000.
Surely, like, even if he's like $200K wrong,
it's like, okay, we might have to manage him a little bit harder, but we can make it happen, right? But then the problem is, what's he excluded? Or what's this? Like, and this is I think I saw your not your podcast, your post the other day about everyone. There's this surge of builders and everyone looks awesome on Instagram. Everyone looks, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great craftsmen out there, and there's guys that build better than, or deliver maybe better quality projects than what we do. What's their process? What's their system? What's the customer service like? What's the callbacks like? What's the relationship like? Like, I know that I can bump into any one of my clients and have a coffee with them or have a work. Like, I got a text yesterday from a client just to say, I didn't really get a chance to say it and express how thankful and everything I am. You guys are awesome. Your team's awesome. Just a random text.
Wow.
Like, I'm not pumping up my own tires, but like, we never really get that. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't get them weekly. It'd be nice. But it's like that. How do you separate that, right? Yes. So you can tell a story, you can do a podcast, stuff like that. At the end of the day, it comes, and that's where referrals are so strong, because a client I did build 5 years ago, 6 years ago, if something's wrong, I still, and it might not have anything to do with us, or I'll pop my head in, or I'll help solve a problem for them, because that's just part of their customer service, and also it's a relationship.
I do
the same to a mate. If you called me and said, hey, I know you've never been to my house, but take a photo. What would you do with this? Or if the stone's broken and stuff, like, oh, I've got a mate that, he's, like, I'm going to help you. Because that's what human nature, like if someone reaches out, like a total stranger, says, hey, can you help me with something? What are you going to do? You help me? Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. And I'm glad you raised that, Peter, because to you, it's the norm. And that's what we try and drive home to a lot of our guys is like how much of, and that's what we're going to be talking more about today is how much of this value behind closed doors is actually being communicated. Because there is stuff, and you and I have talked about this, there's stuff that you do that you think that's the norm. Doesn't everyone do that? That's how I operate. That's how I've always operated. That's why your jobs run well. That's why your trades like working with you and your clients like you and your team hang around. But I've had guys that I'm talking to and and that's the hard thing. Someone can tell you what you want to hear sometimes.
Yeah.
And we've worked with builders. One comes to mind, who nice guy, and he really wanted help. So I was like, all right, man, you look like you really need help. And so we want to help you. Mm-hmm. Great. Created some amazing stories for him. And then one of the tips I said was, why don't you send it to your old clients? Remind them of, no, why would I do that? Then they're gonna point out all the problems and they're gonna ask me to come fix problems. And I was like, what am I hearing? Like, would you not
How many
want
problems
to,
you got?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that one. How many problems? Why are you scared of problems in the homes you built? Why would you be afraid of interacting with an old client? Wouldn't they have had a great experience with you?
And that's the customer service beyond the build, right?
Totally.
It's that period after that. That's where the customer service matters the most, because how pissed off and frustrated is that client? Like, you could have had a great experience through the build, but if they don't come back and just fix the squeaky door, or they don't come back and just adjust the cabinet out of goodwill, and you can argue it back and forth, and people, and I got mates at the builders and go, nah, F them, it's like, how much effort and time do it really take just to fix that door handle? Or some things that are big and like, okay, you haven't cleaned your gutters out and now you have
that's someone else.
That's different. But you go there and you go, listen, you need to give you
educate them.
It's educating. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know too. But if you don't call and keep the lines of communication going, they're not going to refer you, because the only thing they're going to think about is like, oh, that prick didn't come back. He didn't fix this.
Yeah,
I blame him.
Yeah,
because that's what we do as human nature. We blame someone else.
But that's like you and some of the great builders we work with, you see, and that's how, when we talk about with you and other builders, like, your product is not the four walls and the roof. Your product is from that moment of first interaction to 10, 20 years on. That is the product you get when you work with Peter, when you work with Secon. And that's what I love that I'm not sure if you would articulate it like that, but that's what you're getting when you work with Peter. You're getting the ease of contacting him 2 years after you build and saying, hey, the door's squeaky. Can you come help? Or what do we do? Is that normal? And you're like, yeah, you just put a bit of, what would you put in?
WD-40.
WD-40, there you go.
Depends what it is.
And that's like that. That's how we operate. Like, I'll often catch up with guys that, 2 years on, and we just have a brainstorm session just for fun, and hear about what's going on. And I just think that's such an important part and a good perspective to have on, this is what you're offering. But then the challenge comes to, how do you communicate that? And we're not perfect. How do you communicate, well, you're going to invest this into a video. Yeah, but it's not just a video. You're getting all of the story development. You're getting all of the minds here, our constant research. You're getting the distribution, how to work with it, how to use it, how to network, how to whatever, our contacts, the challenge of, but that's all.
How do you guys communicate that, right? Like, so, I mean, you got to build the trust. Number one, because if you don't have trust at the start, they're always going to be skeptical and they're unsure. And then it only takes someone else who comes in who the grass is always greener. Someone who's flashier and
500k less,
and 500k cheaper. Then I think, like I said, the referral is the biggest. So you've got to put your trust in us to let us solve all your problems, but also give you a great customer experience beyond the build.
Yeah.
Before the build, during the build, beyond the build.
Yeah, totally.
I guess, I don't know how many, not dishing the podcast, but I don't know how many clients are going to watch this. Don't know. They might get bored into it. It's probably going to be 90% more builders that watch it. But that's great because, this is how I run my business.
Yep.
Some things have worked really well, some things haven't, but I hope other builders can take what they can out of it.
That's the goal
as do
of
I
the
when I
podcast.
watch the podcast of other builders. I go, that's a really good insight. I want to start doing that. You know, the building the trust thing is hard. It's especially in the current climate. I mean, builders is one of the most untrusted professions in Australia. Like how bad of a reputation do builders get, really?
Yeah, and that's
and don't get me wrong, there's some shitheads out there. Like there really is. Like there's some guys that absolutely ruin the industry.
yeah, unfortunately.
And so they get a bad rap.
Yeah, and that's it's important to be mindful of that because a lot of the guys that we work with are humble guys. I think that's what somewhat attracts them to the way we go about doing things. It's not, hey, look at me. This is more like, hey, this is what I genuinely care about.
Yeah,
and I want to share that. But I know some content we put out recently about that idea of, I'm not sure if you came across it, that idea of the two chefs at the party. So you got one chef that says, oh, I'm an in-home chef or an at-home chef. I'll come to your house and I'll cook. Cool. And what sports team do you go for? You know, like move on. That was dull. Versus someone else who goes, oh, well, you know, most families struggle to eat. Well, I'm others. Let's say chef number 2 at the party says I'm an at-home chef, and I come to your house and I cook. You know, most families struggle to eat healthy these days because they're so busy. Let alone all the family to actually get together at the same time and eat together around the table. And then you've got all that prep time, all the cleanup time, and so a lot of families these days are losing the opportunity to spend that time around the table like we did in the old days. And you know, for a lot of these busy. You say the busiest time is often when your kids are in that sort of middle school, senior school, lots of extracurricular activities. Yeah, there might only be 5 years left while they're at home. How many more dinners do you want to have around a table? So I come to your home and I'll cook and I'll work out a healthy plan. I'll clean up and you just get to enjoy time together.
Sign me up.
There you go.
Yeah.
So imagine we met at a party. Who are you going to remember? Who's going to leave that lasting impact? And that's the idea of when someone... Now, don't go around tooting your own horn, but when the opportunity arises, and how are you articulating what you do? Hi, Peter, what do you do? Oh, I'm a builder. Or, well, no, Peter, what do you do? I'm a builder. We actually specialise in creating some incredible spaces for some of the most amazing families, and we specialise mostly in the heritage home space.
Yep.
So some beautiful, old homes, and some of these homes are 150 years that we work on, and we want to make sure they're around for another 150 years. You know, you can copy that and save that.
I was going to say, can you write that down for the next sales pitch?
But I feel like that comes back to the consistency thing. Like if you're consistent, then you're not having to think about these things.
Yeah.
If you can build that into, and that comes back to, because of the way you were with the previous client, that's the story that gets told to the next client.
Yeah.
In the referral game as well. That's why referrals are powerful, and it makes it much easier if you're just the same person today that you were last week and the same person you're going to be next week. Yeah,
and it goes into your work in terms of, we've got the same process for when we start pricing a job or when a tender opportunity arises, same process. And we show up when we say we're going to show up. And when I say we, I've got the whole crew in terms of my plumber, electrician, demo contractor, painter, plasterer. I want all my trades looking at a job, because when I say to the client that I'm delivering a quotation to you that's a fixed price, because we've looked at all the problems. Yep. I've had my plumber stick a camera down your sewer drains for the morning.
Wow. So you get that team assembled at the front end to look at a project?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Now, in the initial first discussion, it's not. It's just about building trust, getting a feel for the project.
Okay, if we can jump into that, because that's part of the engine room. Like what goes into, and this podcast is there to inspire. And as you said, you take away stuff from podcasts you listen to here. Yep. We want guys to take away from this, sharing as much as you can of all your top secrets. What does it look like? If we can walk through in as much detail as you can provide. Someone initially comes in contact with you, they have a chat. You mentioned earlier that you'll have that initial sort of sit down and talk to them about their expectations, what they wanted to get.
Yep.
And you might give them an indication of where things are at in terms of pricing maybe at that stage.
Yep.
What from there, talk me through how it goes from there to when you're getting all those guys to look at it.
It's usually two forms of the way the job comes to us. It's either a client through an architect that have already done prelim plans, and the architect wants a bit more of a feasibility on, is this on budget with the client's expectations? Yeah. So go out there and meet the client, build the trust with the client, because we want them to feel comfortable. Like, we're not just working for the architect, we're working for you. The architect's just a referral. Yeah. The other one is clients, no plans, permit, no nothing. Yeah. All right, what do you want to achieve? It's go there, have the initial discussion, building the trust. All right, we're scoping out the job, and then it's an expectation that I always say to them, I'll be honest and upfront with you. I just expect the same back. I see your budget at here with everything that you want to achieve. Where's your budget sitting? Because I'm always over whatever it is. Like, I'm going to be over. It doesn't matter. Just tell me. Be realistic. What's the ceiling? Because it's always going to be higher.
But I feel like that's human nature as well. Like, if you go buy a car, if you go buy anything, the price you have in your mind, unless you've seen it advertised, but even then, it's going to be more, because then they're going to put wheels on it, and they're going to put a full tank of fuel in it. Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
So then once we've got to that point, delivered the good or bad news, usually the bad news or over budget, but I always say to them, we can achieve, this and this within that budget. Go back, if they proceed to go ahead with us, we do charge for a quotation. Okay. Now,
how do you articulate that to them?
So what I say is, I'll give you a ballpark figure for free of roughly what it will cost. If you want a detailed fixed price quotation for everything and a detailed breakdown, but also, which is where a little bit of extra
education,
but also bang for buck, I call it, is that while I'm building your quotation, I'm looking at things going, we can cut that. That's going to save some money. We can change that. We can change that. So we have a list of items called, which architects hate, but it's called value management, because that's what we're doing, which means sometimes changing the specifications.
Yeah. But like, the one thing that, I can't remember who it was that explained it to me and articulated it pretty well, is value management is understanding what is the client value and managing that maintains.
Yep.
And where are things that they value less, and maybe that can change.
It's a simple thing, like you want a big open stack of sliding door on your back living room, full height to the ceiling.
Sounds like Carly.
Yeah, and full height.
Yeah, but
the budget doesn't fit. Yeah. So okay, well, how important to you is it that the window's this wide? If we pull it back in this little bit, and also instead of going up to the ceiling, we have just a little bit of a bulkhead above, because you're supporting a roof above, so we've got to get a steel beam in there, all those sort of things. That brings the cost down. They're like, oh no, we just wanted a wider window.
Yeah.
The architect's
just wanted the bifold doors.
Yeah, and the architect's going to draw things in that's going to look amazing because they want an amazing product for their client.
Yes.
It's not just the architect just going off on a tangent. The architect's usually wanting to deliver a great project for the client, but doesn't understand the cost. So then we'll come in and go, well...
And that's not necessarily their responsibility. That's why it's important to work with.
No, they've got to have a rough idea, but that's why we invite them to come to us.
Yeah.
We want our architects coming to us. We want other architects coming to us and going, hey, before we present to a client, would you be interested in this project? Yeah, would. Yep, have a look at it. All right, ballpark figure, I think it'll cost this much. Can I come out and have a look at it? Meet the client, then build the trust, and then go from there.
Yeah.
So once we've done that, we've got commitment from the client, then it's like, okay, we've got a fee paid, it's go time. So we go through all the tender documents, specifications, engineering, soil reports, everything like that, send it out to our preferred trades. We're scoping it out as we send it to each trade. It's not just like...
What does scoping it out mean?
So say you're a steel fabricator.
Yeah.
I've gone through the whole plans, engineering and everything like that, and I've listed items I want you pricing on. I've highlighted them to you. That's your tender pack. This is what I want you pricing on.
Yeah.
The reason why we do that is because I don't want you missing something and then for turning around halfway through the bill, I didn't allow for that. Or I don't want to miss it in the quote either. But also I've got a better understanding, and my team and the admin team's got a better understanding. So Grant, who sits in the office, contract administrator, is given, he can with confidence give you a purchase order if we get the job to know line by line what each item costs that you're going to deliver to the project. So then for us, it's a fixed fee to deliver to the client.
So it gives you the confidence and
We
transparency.
don't do cost plus, right? So for us, and especially with some of the level of projects that we do, the clients have to take on a loan, which means the banks aren't doing cost plus contracts anymore.
Yeah.
Those days are done, like especially the way funding's tightened up. So they want a fixed fee. They want to be able to go in with confidence knowing that we've allowed for everything. And for us, we can give clarity on that. So we send out to the trades, get all the trades to agree to meet on a certain morning. So we might say Wednesday morning next week, we'll be there at 8 a.m. We're going to be there for 2 hours. And I have the plumber, electrician, steel fabricator, all the trades required for that project that need to see the existing conditions. Okay. Now, because most of the work's renovation work, if it's a new home, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Nothing to see but on paper. But because it's existing, it's tight, like laneway access.
Yeah.
Is parking a problem? All these things need to be considered in the project to be able to deliver it. Now, this is where, when we deliver our quotation, it's usually something about 50 to 60 something pages.
One thing you mentioned there in terms of bringing these guys along to look at existing situation, how many of these guys have worked on projects like this before?
All of them.
All of them.
Yeah. Because we don't shop our trades around.
One reason why I want to ask you that, and I expected that to be the answer, was at the Level Up experience the other day. Matt Reisinger from the US was very open, honest, and transparent. Because his big thing is, if you know better, you build better.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And so he talked about a project when he first started out where he built a flat roof, and the client wanted 3 quotes on every aspect of the build. And he was like, okay, I'll do that. And one of them was, roofing. And this third quote came in well below. And the client was like, we want that one. Like,
Of course you do.
Yeah. So they built it, and then like 3 months later, they called him and goes, I think there's a leak. And he was like,
Funny that.
no, there shouldn't be a leak. Went over there, insane mold. Had to rip up in the skylight, just eating away at the sill, at the window sill. Exterior, had to pull that whole exterior cladding off and was just rotting inside everything. Turns out the roofer had never done a flat roof. And for Matt, it was his first flat roof.
Yep.
And it just showed the importance of, one, using a trade that you trust, a trade that's done it before, especially if you haven't done it before.
Yep.
But the great thing here is you have done this before, and your trades have done it before, and the team have worked together before. And yeah, like that's all part of, I find, the value that's often not communicated. Because there's so much you're trying to communicate to the client.
That's why it mind boggles me that why would you get an amateur to build a house that you're going to sell on? You've got amateurs, like people that aren't in the building industry, painting, organising, pretty much playing owner builder on a project and a high-end product that sell for over $1 or $2 million.
Yeah.
And then you're selling it. And it's like, what could go wrong? Like there's so much to consider in a house. There's so much red tape. Like, and I know they've got builders in play and stuff like that, but like, why would you risk it? Like this, a home is usually the biggest investment of your life. A renovation, another big, or building a new home, a massive, massive step, like financially. Why would you want to get someone who's an amateur? Whether it's one of the trades or like you want the best of the best.
It blows my mind how much knowledge that you guys need to have in your head. It is unbelievable that you need to know a lot. It's not a little bit about a lot. You need to know a lot about a lot.
Yeah.
And it's like, I could get some heat from this, maybe from Carly, but I liken it to a doctor. Yeah, having seen how much he's studied.
Oh, they got to know everything about this and that and that. And this.
But that's like you guys on site. You need to know about so much about what's going on, down to the nut and the bolt and how that fits and how that could affect that. And and yes, you bring in consultants, architects, engineers, and totally. But in the day, like it's your license on the line, so you need to know a little bit about that and how that's going to work.
All that, and then also about the red tape. And the red tape keeps changing too. So trying to keep up to date with that, like
At the event, Matt was so honest. Dwayne was really honest, and he was like, "Man, if we did everything to absolute code, we'd never finish the job."
No, you wouldn't.
The job wouldn't even work.
No.
Yeah.
No, and that's where like some of the codes, like especially when you're dealing with the older, or you're marrying old to new, like you got to polish a turd a little bit. You can't just pull it down and start again. Like you've got to make good, not make it compliant. We've got to make it work so that it doesn't have any more issues. There's no callbacks. Like, and that's a big way. One of the big mentalities is within the company with all the guys. No callbacks.
Yeah,
we minimise those callbacks.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever perfect. Don't get me wrong. Like we have maintenance the same as any other builder, but
I wonder if
we minimise it as much as possible. And that's like you said, behind the scenes, the mentality from the guys is like, I'll wear things just because I don't want the callback.
Yeah.
I'd rather just like, unless it's something major, like it's like just replace it, pull it out, do it again.
Yeah. Like
all that urbanware is broken.
How much do you think the type of homes you work on changes the mentality on that callback? Like I'm building a brand new home and it's contemporary and I'm trying to sell it. The mindset around that versus the mindset around I'm working on something that is 150 years old and I want to be around for another 150 years.
It's huge.
And so the callback is weighted heavier.
It's not even the callback, it's the legacy that we're leaving behind.
Okay.
Reputation more than anything. Mm-hmm. It's okay. So this home has been here for 200 years, and we have the privilege of working on it.
I felt my brain just comprehended that, like actually just comprehended that. Because that home has been there this might sound so obvious to you, but that home has been there for 150 years,
and it's going to be there for another 200 years
because of the red tape, because of the heritage listing it's not allowed to move.
No, that thing's not going. And that thing is always going to look like that. Yeah. Usually the front facade and the heritage features is all going to be like that in the next 200 years.
The difference of growing up in the Gold Coast is like homes here
aren't 200 years.
This is a blanket statement, so forgive me for those listening. But there's a lot here that's built to be knocked down in 20 years.
Yeah, the 5-0 shacks, the weatherboards. Yeah. The old Queenslander. So a lot of the Melbourne homes I think that's on.
Yeah, I just had that moment. I was like, holy smokes, it's not going to go. It's not like, oh, you'd like it to be around. No, it's going to be around.
It's staying. And that's that part of that legacy and that mindset that it's a privilege to work on this.
Yeah, wow.
Let's look after it. Let's make sure that, but also because at some point, because it's got a heritage listing, there's a story behind it. So the story behind that property is that it was built in this year by so-and-so, or if the records show that. But the records are kept now that Secon Constructions worked on that. Secon Constructions refurbed this in 2025 or what year it was that we worked on the project. And that is a timestamp that we did this. We did this renovation. We refurbed this to hold beauty back to its former glory.
I feel like there's this, I was talking to a guy yesterday, a designer actually, and he, great approach. And he's coming on the podcast in a few weeks. And before me even saying anything, he was like, man, I am so pro builder engagement, early builder engagement. And I was like, Ray, would you come on the and he actually, him and his father used to run a building company. And then his passion was design. So he's gone into the design space. So unique background. But yeah, this idea of this home was built 150 years ago and it's now logged. You can see it's recorded, and it let's say you could somehow go and talk to all the families that ever lived in that home.
Yeah.
There's this ongoing story that's being told of that home, and it's going to have an ongoing story that you've played a part in, which I just think is a really, really cool way to look at it.
Yeah. And that's one of the biggest drivers of what we do. Like we convert these old homes into their former glory, but also we're giving the family, a really comfortable home, a really beautiful home that they're proud of. And living in Melbourne and seeing some of the homes, like a lot of people have pride in their homes, and why wouldn't you? You spend so much money on them, but it's a privilege to live and own a heritage listed home in Victoria, I think.
They're quite scarce. Yeah, there's not. You can't build more of them.
But also, if you keep that in your family, it's the front of it is still going to look how it did when your grandfather lived in, or all those sort of things. It's just a story. Like it keeps going.
Were you and I talking about? You had a guy come knock on your door and whose grandparents used to live in the house, and he had a photo.
No.
Yeah, someone who lives in a heritage listed home. Maybe it was in Adelaide. Sorry.
Yep.
One of our Adelaide builders, and he his own home was a heritage listed, and so renovated it. And then he randomly one day had a guy knock on the door and said, "Hey, I'm just back in town, and I thought I'd come say, hey, my grandfather lives here."
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Or my grandfather grew up in this house.
Yep.
Like, I don't know how long ago that would have been, but this guy was in his 60s and 70s. And then he emailed him a photo of his grandfather standing out front of that house.
Oh, epic. Yeah.
And he's like, man, this is like 6 years ago. And he's like, I've spent the last 5 years searching for that email and I can't find it.
I know.
And I was like, oh man, but imagine if you somehow, could capture that.
Yeah.
You're right. It wouldn't be changing because of what's in place.
Yeah. Well, we're doing one in Albert Park at the moment, and it's an old shop front. But being a shop front, obviously the legislation is a bit loose. Back, 50, 60 years ago, they changed the front of it slightly, but we're pulling it all out to restore it back to original form of glory.
Wow.
And yeah, that's cool because you see the shop next to it is still got the original windows and everything like that with the moldings and all that and the glass and the little recess in that will have like a brass stamp in the concrete, like just which showed sort of class and wealth back in the day. So yeah, it's
then you need specialty trades for that. You need
it's just knowing the process of
again being experienced in that.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, any good carpenter builder will be able to work it out, but it's knowing where the tricks are too in such an old building, wall to wall. Yeah.
The next thing I want to talk to you about is you briefly touched on something earlier, which I know you and I have discussed in the past off camera, this idea of there's the scope of things and you understand, okay, what's in scope, but then there's the level of certain things that need to be managed. It's not your responsibility, but you take responsibility for it to ensure the outcome. And a lot of the stuff client doesn't really know about. In your eyes, client doesn't need to know about. But talking to you about it, I was like, holy smokes, like just the extent you go to. And the reason I want to raise this is, again, for other builders listening to this, to go like for maybe young guys or guys that want to level up, is when you go and take this level of responsibility, that's what, I would say quality. This was something that was pointed out to me a few weeks back with someone. I always thought quality was like, oh, you're just paying more for the wood. Oh, you're just paying more. It's a higher end tap. Yep. It's a higher end. And they walked me through. Now, quality is one of the examples was like just the level of protection they put down on the floors while it's being worked on.
It's the care taken.
It's the care taken. It's the I'm going to order an extra handle set and I'm going to give that to the locksmith or the carpenter or whoever does all the locks and doors. Use that, drop that, that's fine. That needs to go and fit everything. Then we'll bring and unbox the final pieces to go in at the end.
Yep.
It's I'm going to order an extra door so that there's no delay on this because there's a good chance that, 6, 7 times out of 10, it gets scratched. Something's going to happen. Yeah. And I've got to back up.
It's managing problems before they happen. In some respect, like the floor protection, it's making sure a scratch doesn't happen, or because not saying you don't trust your trades, but accidents happen. So you're just managing that.
But it's taking responsibility rather than going, hey, trade, just make sure you don't scratch the floor.
Well, and to your young builders listening, the biggest thing that you'll learn is that you're an easy target as a builder.
By who?
Neighbours, council, authority bodies, disgruntled people driving past, walking past. You got to think about not just your building site, everything beyond that. So before we start a project, we think, okay, we've got like a checklist essentially. Okay, so are we going to be working at the front on the footpath? If we are, what sort of traffic management, what sort of guidelines, how are we going to protect the public? Now, that's something that is forced upon us in certain cases by the building surveyor, that we have to take out traffic management plan. We've got to take out hoarding permits, which is Reg 116 in Victoria, which is about it's an application process and writing a methodology report detailing point by point how we protect the public, how we protect vehicles, all that while we're doing the work. So what we're having to do more, and this is more, and every time I go for a building permit, I feel like there's more red tape, but you got to think, as a young builder, I learned you're an easy target. So, which means everyone's going to call you with a problem because of you. They're blaming you. And it might be you, might not be
your
you.
name on the hoarding.
Might be one of your trades, but so you got to eliminate. You got to own that. It's you're the builder. You put your sign up on that thing. Guess what? It is on you. So put the letter out to the neighbours. Let them know you're coming. It's just a very simple, courteous letter. Give them your number, because they're going to call. They're going to find your number some way or another.
Yeah.
Be on the front foot. Introduce yourself. So when you see the neighbour, little things. Tell your team, don't park in front of them, because she's elderly. She needs to get to her car. It's considering everything around you and taking ownership of that. Don't be the easy target. You know what I mean? Like be the person that, builder's rolled into town. He's actually really nice. These guys are lovely. They say hi to him. And we get a lot of feedback on that. They're all the time. Like every job, we pull the bins out for them. What's 5 minutes in your day for a couple of guys? Move the bins. It's bin day. Make sure all the tradies' cars move, or put all the bins out so the bin guy can get it, so he's not blocking the road. Yeah, there's these little things that you got to consider.
Yeah, and they're so important, and they go such a long. Like that's one thing. I mean, I created a document a little while back on trying to educate some of my guys on understanding what branding means, but that's part of branding.
Yeah.
How does the community perceive you when you're doing a project on that block?
If you're putting a sign up, you're an easy target. So,
but
instead of being an easy target, be the guy everyone's like, those guys are awesome.
But there's also huge opportunity in that.
Yeah.
You're like, and that's, but yeah, you got to go to that extent to control as much as you can in terms of if someone approaches you, is it the first time that, say Karen, is it the first time that neighbour's going to be getting up at you for whatever, or have you already dropped a letter? Have you already knocked on the door to say, "Hi, I'm introducing this. Here's my personal number if you need to get hold of me." That radically changes. Then by the time they, one, there's more of a personalised relationship, so they're less likely to confront you. They're more likely to be like, "Well, he was nice," or you know what, I'm going to approach him a lot softer and just say, "Hi, do you mind you guys not parking here?" And you probably told him not to park there, but one guy.
It always happens. Don't get me wrong. Like you tell the Sparky, the head Sparky, and then he's got 5 guys work for him. And he takes one, right? Yeah. And you just got to own it and apologise, and sort it out straight away. Go move your car, mate. Like, but I mean, you can't reason with an idiot either. So you just got to just write it out and apologise. Just keep smiling. Like like
just a side note, I have met some wonderful Karens.
Oh, yes. Wonderful.
Not all Karens are bad.
I'm sure. Yet to meet one.
So that's a key thing you raised, and I'm really glad you raised that, because that's all part of what's under the hood when it comes to running at the level you run at. Some of the stuff you've mentioned in the past, and just the like scaffolding down side alleyways, and talk me through, like, that's an example of the extent you go to make sure that things are allowed for, managed, in control, so that we don't have issues coming up.
And that's it. Well, a lot of some of our projects are in the city, so we are working on council land to some extent. We know, everyone knows that the councils are hard to deal with. It's slow. It's a lot of work that we have to do before we even commence on site. And sometimes, like I said, it's forced upon us by the building surveyors. So we got to take out Reg 116, which is hoarding permit, traffic management. You got to have it show a traffic management in play, but you've got to implement it too. Like, there's no point in just doing it and ticking a box, like, because how pissed off is the neighbour going to be if he can't get out of his driveway because we've got a concrete truck there? It's doing a tight schedule and saying, all right, we're going to pour concrete on these days, which means we're going to probably start a little bit earlier, and there's concrete trucks in the street backing up. we got to let every neighbour know. We have to let them know because they're going to be affected.
I learned something the other day about concrete. One, it's very expensive, but
Very, yeah.
Two, they I don't know about down there, but up here they charge you per the minute on site.
Over. So you got 20 minutes to empty the truck.
Yeah.
And then every minute after that, you're getting charged. And then if you over order, there's an environmental fee to dump it too.
Okay. That makes sense as to why, because that'll be one of the few things that will push out a meeting with our team. Is like, sorry guys, can we postpone that? I got concrete on site today. And it's like, cool.
It's called liquid gold for a reason.
Yeah.
Because it costs, the product's expensive itself.
Yes.
It's ongoing costs if the truck's still there.
Yeah.
Also traffic management.
And if it's done wrong, there's a big ongoing cost.
Concrete pump.
Yeah.
Concreters.
Yeah.
Like, they're not cheap.
Yeah.
And then you've got any problems that happen from concreting. So spillage, if it sets, it's expensive to clean up. If you get it wrong, it's really expensive to fix.
Yeah.
Liquid gold.
And it sets. It's not like, oh, it's pliable. We'll just,
oh, it's okay. We'll just pull it out. You just get your hammer out and get the concrete.
Just sand that.
Just sand that down. You'll be right.
Yeah.
So it's all these things that you got to consider before you start the project, like scaffolding. So we have to. Most of the projects I do in the inner city, it'll take me full time writing reports, like methodology reports, because there's not just the public protection reports. There's also protection works, because most of the projects is single fronted dwellings, so you're wall to wall. So you got protection works both sides. So you have to give an insurance policy to take out to protect their property, each property that you're serving protection works on.
Wow.
If you're doing a renovation, a lot of guys have been getting away with it of late, but I reckon the authorities are going to start cracking down, is that they should be taking out a separate insurance policy on the existing dwelling. A lot of guys don't know that when you take on a renovation work, you're giving an insurance policy for what the works that you're doing. While you're building, you should be taking out a policy for the value of that existing building. So we work in expensive areas. So what would it cost to rebuild this 250 Edwardian home if it burnt down while I was in construction? And there's these fine prints in the legislation and also the insurance policy that a lot of guys don't know. You should be taking out a separate policy just to cover that building. But they don't.
Whiz. Yeah.
Because
I feel like for a property owner, that should almost be a non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable, they don't know because they think there's an insurance policy in place under contract works that it's just...
They hear insurance and they go,
it's not. And also the insurance is astronomically expensive. Like I'm talking like a $10,000 policy just for 12 months.
Yeah, right.
Is that included in their quote? So there's all these things, like we know because we do a lot of them, we're allowing for all that.
Yeah.
We're competing against the guy that's $500,000 cheaper. Is he allowing for it? Is he doing the methodology reports, which is going to hold up to get the building permit? Is he getting fines because he hasn't taken out the appropriate permits down the laneway? It's all these things that, again, don't get me wrong, I've missed a couple of these too early on in the days, and you learn by experience. But you want to be reputable and to keep getting referrals and keep working in the same areas, you got to be consistent. Going back to what you were talking about before, and that's doing the right thing, taking out the right permits. Yes, it's more red tape. Yes, it's a pain in the ass. Yes, I hate doing it, but you got to do it.
Worries me.
Yeah.
How do you, if we look at when you're working with architects, let's say the architect is referred, so then you're big in, you're always big on collaborating.
Yeah.
And that approach is so important. And it's not just you and the architect, or you and the architect, the client. It's the engineer, it's the trades, everyone's got to work together.
Yep.
But if we look particularly at the architect and client, how do you go about communicating your value or communicating the detail on a project without overwhelming them with details?
Again, you got to work to the situation of the client. Sometimes the architect, if they want to be involved, like all the detail goes through them.
Okay.
And we never exclude, the client as such, but we don't want to give them the labour pains. We just want to give them the baby, right? Mm-hmm. I talked to the midwife or the doctor about the labour pains, but we don't want to, overwhelm the clients with things that they don't understand. So details and stuff like that, you always talk over with the architect, not to exclude the client, but you just don't need to worry that them or get them because you're going to have to educate them first and then have the conversation. Like, don't waste the time. Just deliver the end product. So early on, if it's an architect referred, all correspondence go through them. If it's to the client and say it's design and construct, then we want to control that process. Okay. We give the architect full autonomy. So like I'll do an introduction. So you're the client, you come to me. Mm-hmm. I work out what you want to achieve, and then I'm like, okay, well, I've got these architects I think will suit you, and I give full autonomy to that. But I just say to the architect, I need to review the plans before you present, because there's no point in you delivering something up here, it's $5 million, when I know the budget's only at $2 million, and we've got to collaborate together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
and architects really, they respond to that really well, because they don't want to go into something and design something and waste their time on something that isn't going to get built either.
So true. And I'm really glad to hear you say that, because often I'll talk to guys and they're like, no, architects are arrogant or obnoxious or they, whatever. And it's like, man, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm talking to more and more builders that are telling me that they're talking to more architects. And I'm starting to talk to more architects and designers that are very pro get the builder involved early.
100%, because they don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
And they want to see the project go ahead.
Totally. And especially,
but also they want their input. So what we find is a lot of, and we invite it, architects will design something and they'll send us something. Is that work, or is that compliant, or does that work with you? That's great. We want that. We want to be involved in that process. There might be a capping detail, and
that can only happen when there's a good relationship.
That's it. And you workshop it together.
Good communication.
Yeah. It's like, okay, what's the intent? Show me the 3D render. I'm like, okay, what if we do this? And we just workshop a couple of things, document it, done. That's what we're going to do.
How important is it and how do you go about communicating to the architect or the building designer and conveying that you understand and appreciate the design intent? Because sometimes that, I think, can be the friction point where it's like, we want to be, here's a solution or value managing, but the designer or the architect is interpreting that as, oh, you're not respecting my design intent, or you've taken this skew, or how do you, because I feel like you, from what you've communicated with me, navigate that pretty well when it comes to making sure that the architect and the client understands that I really do understand and value the design intent here.
Yeah.
And we're working with that at the forefront of our minds.
I think, whether you like the design or not, you just ask the right questions, which is, okay, so if you don't have clarity on it, you go, how can we make this work? Because at the moment we've got a problem with this, or I feel like I don't want to build that because that's going to be a warranty issue. Or that's going to cause a leak or whatever it is. And you just openly, like...
What's an example of that? I'm naive. I've never... But I do hear of these challenges of... curves
are the rage at the moment. So
curves, okay.
Curves and no cappings. So it's a detail we're doing a lot of late. Curved exterior wall. So it might be a render or, say, a timber clad detail, but the architect specifies I don't want to see any metal capping to cap.
So that wall I want to see go to the sky.
Yep.
And above that I want to see blue sky.
Yeah, I don't want to see a metal flashing turned down on top of it.
Right.
Yeah. So okay, we got to workshop that. How are we gonna make that work?
Yeah, I suppose that's where you need someone who's knowledgeable, because my brain just blanks as to like how that's physically that comes into the realm of skyhooks.
Well, that would do it. So there's a couple of steps. There's a non-conformity step, so it doesn't comply to the NCC. Okay, so we need a performance solution. How do we do the performance solution? We have to come up with an idea of going, okay, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to make it waterproof?
Yeah.
So, okay, the intent is that you don't want to see a cap, but there is a cap. But how we fold that and how we intricately make that happen so it's out of the side of line, let's workshop that together. Because he'll draw something, there'll be like the rough intent of it, or she, whatever the architect or designer is, and then we just want to know that it's not going to cause us an issue later on. And also, we don't want to stop halfway through the build and go, oh, we've got a problem here. We want this. Like we're picking up on these things at tender stage, essentially. So, and again, it could be one of those things that's a value management item. Go to the client. How important is it you to not see the caps? What caps? Or like, what do you mean? So we're talking. Oh no, we're happy to see metal. Okay, bang, we save some money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for the architect, though, they have to give that up.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll always, and this comes into managing that architect relationship, I will never just cut something out that's important to the architect. Like if there's that detail or if it's a window or something that it's like that's their non-negotiables and there's the clients. Sometimes they clash because sometimes there's some big, we have to use that stone or we have to do that cladding detail. You just got to workshop it and just it's all about managing expectation.
Yeah, I feel like managing expectation, open communication and workshopping is just like
I feel like I play politics a lot sometimes. It's having conversations and being just open, frank, and honest, and like we'll sit down at the client's house or the architect's or our office and go, guys, this is where we're at. We're over budget. All right, to get it down, we can do this, this, and this. I'm not making the decision on that. You guys need to collaborate or come up with what you guys are happy with. And that's to get the project to move forward because otherwise it's not going to get built. But at the end of the day, it costs what it costs. So that's and they're the discussions you're usually having when you're because I'm totally frank, it's taken, and I'm sure there's builders in the same position. We're presenting probably about 4 to 6 revisions before we sign a contract on a price because that many changes and to get the price down in part of that value management process because it just takes that long at the moment because it costs too much to build in this country. Like
how do you foresee that? If we take the shift now towards on an industry level, what do you foresee happening in the next 5 years?
It's not getting cheaper.
Okay.
It'll go up. How does it not go up when the cost of energy goes up? We've got
and shortage of labour.
The government doesn't seem to be slowing down on migration, but they're not supplying any more homes. They're not giving up on taxing the crap out of developers who pretty much supply the whole country with homes, and they keep trying to go them, but they're not making it any easier. Like we could talk for hours about what I could criticise about the government, but we won't do that. At the end of the day, okay, I saw a podcast. I listened to a podcast not too long ago. A guy did a development. 6 years or 5.5, 6 years later, the cost had more than doubled what it cost to build. That's the real inflation in the building industry, but no one's talking about it.
Yeah, that's something I've only recently come to comprehend because totally like developers can get a bad name and just having.
So they built, say, an apartment block, and it cost them roughly about $250 or something like that per unit. To finish. Now, if they were built to build the same, and it's not just the cost of materials and labour, it's the red tape on top as well. Like since COVID, red tape's gone through the roof, I feel.
And taking longer to build? So you got holding costs?
Yeah, a little bit, because there's more compliance.
Okay.
Some of it's good, like about safety and stuff like that, but I mean, that's always been around. You just got to do the right thing. But the compliance, the red tape to get the permits, the holding cost, that's where it adds up per unit, right?
Yeah.
I think it was more than double what it cost to build those apartments now. That's homes that aren't getting built.
And that I feel like that's one thing I know. Kylie and I were chatting about just on the weekend, listening to some podcasts on the property space and that. You've got that, and then you've while a developer could be like, cool, I can if I can get the money together, let's say I can go build it. But now, how many people have had a doubling of their wage or doubling of their income, household income, to then afford that?
Yep.
So now I can't charge a price that is profitable for me and affordable.
Yeah. Okay. So look at it as a whole, as well as an economy cycle. Where are we going to be in 10 years, 20 years time? Because it's the have and haves nots. Mm-hmm. We're heading like America, where if you've got a property, you'll be able to get another property because you're getting that uplift, because property prices are not dropping. Mm-hmm. They are coming up because there's such a shortage. Supply and demand, basic principles. Yeah. So you own a property, you'll be able to loan against your property to help your kids get a property. The ones that don't have a property will not have a property. Full stop. They'll never get there unless they fall into an amazing job that can afford to get into the market.
They mentioned that was a scary realization last week. I was chatting to a guy because a house 2 down from ours just sold, and we've only had our place now for 2 years. And what it sold for is a big difference. Good for us, but big difference from what we bought for.
Yep.
And it was like, if I just look at my friends and family around me, it's like, I don't know any of them, unless they've got assets, that would be able to save that much. Yep. Because their loan capacity hasn't increased by that much.
No.
If gone down.
Okay, so then you would go down the federal government's new rules. You can 5%. You get a 5% deposit together now, but the government's guaranteeing, which means they get the uplift on the capital growth as well.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So, so they're not. It doesn't. But remember,
it's not a win-win.
It's no win-win. No. And also, when you sell it, and if it's an investment property, it's still capital gains tax as well, so they're double dipping. But the problem lies is it's not solving the housing crisis problem. There's still not enough homes.
There's a podcast.
All you're doing is targeting a market which is essentially under $1 million, say 800K. Mm-hmm. I think it's under 800K or something like that. 5% deposit, government will guarantor. So all you've done is the people with the wealth or with the property have got a $600,000, $700,000 apartment or whatever. It's now going to be valued at 800 because the demand's there. You've just uplifted that market. But also then you've got another issue where that generational wealth of like the olders, the boomers, essentially that have most of the wealth, you go, well, they're going to tax the crap out of my super. I'll just go buy one of those apartments because I'm going to get good uplift on it. They haven't solved any issues. So you got me on politics now. We've got to change the subject.
I feel like we could do another. We're really keen to at some stage do. We would really get to have you on that panel. Is to have like a panel podcast. Of like 3 or 4 builders of say different areas, different states, and workshop. Kind of like what Synthesis was like on those weekly calls. It just wasn't a broadcasted discussion.
Probably a wise move though.
That chat still breaks me up. Man. That's definitely another whole topic there. That, it's frightening. But in saying that, if we look at, we're big on where's the opportunity.
Yeah.
And so from a builder's perspective, there's definitely some creative ideas out there when it comes to how, as a builder, can you, what opportunity can you make the most of this opportunity?
I look at that's what we specialise in heritage because it's a blue chip market. Mm-hmm. The properties in usually the heritage sort of overlay areas are affluent sort of areas, which means there's people with wealth in them. And also, no matter what sort of market they're doing, so no matter what the market's doing or the economy's doing, those people will have to spend money on those properties. Mm-hmm. They got to fix them up.
Yeah.
But also usually those sort of people aren't as impacted by the economy.
But they're the same people that when things drive higher, they're the ones with assets. They have
but they're getting a return.
Yeah.
So when interest rates are high, well, they're doing all right because they've got money invested in something.
Yeah. And when interest rates go low, that pushes assets price up.
Yeah.
They're smiling too.
Yeah.
Good clientele.
It's not, but it's also just a network of people that are smart.
Oh, yeah.
Like-minded in some sense. They're businessmen. They get it.
Totally. One thing I came across a really good quote. Well, it's not. I've heard it several times, but it was mentioned again at the level of experience, because there it's about wanting the industry to succeed, wanting good builders to succeed.
Yep.
And one of the areas of successful builder, it's not everything, but making money. You know, if you're running a good business, you should make money.
Yeah.
But you're making money because you've provided some fantastic value to the market that someone has gone, I deem it valuable and I'm willing to exchange my money for that value.
Yeah.
And so that's the same in terms of these people in the affluent areas. They have exchanged value with the marketplace. They've worked hard.
Yeah.
Either with their mind, their skill set, and they've worked hard to build that, or they've maybe built a product, or they've built a service.
Customer service. And then it's like when you go to a restaurant, you can cook a steak at home. We can go to a restaurant and someone can serve you the steak, pour your wine, recommend what sauce or wine to have with your steak, and and it's the ongoing service. Then as you walk out the door, collect your coat. Hope you had a great experience, and it's just nice talking to someone serving you, and that's what I like to think we pride ourselves on, the service that we deliver to our clients, and that's not just after the meal's done. It's before they walk in the door, to the booking, to the experience, everything.
Have you heard Andre's story?
No.
Of this wine? So everyone's got I feel like everyone has a wine story of like where you deemed wine more tasty or more valuable because of the story around it, or the backstory,
Or the view.
or the view.
While you're drinking it.
So Andre's story was, I think, pre his first baby. He's got a second baby coming, but pre little Sammy. Him and his wife went and had a baby moon in Brisbane, Vegas, and they went to this nice restaurant that cooks everything on a flame. Beautiful steak. And what do you have with a steak? Glass of wine. And he looked at the wine menu and was like, holy smokes, that's as thick as an encyclopedia. Where do I even start? I know red, I know white, I know Merlot, Sauvignon Blanc, and I'm done. And so then it's like, okay, what I do understand is the price, numbers. I know that this is more than that, and that's okay. I won't go cheapest because I'm not cheap. I'll go one up. So I won't go $12 glass. I'll go the $15 glass. And if you asked him, great experience, enjoyed it, wonderful. So much so that he, when he went back up there with Cornet and two of their friends who are builders, they all went out for a nice dinner there. But the difference this time was when one of the guys was like, oh man, look at this wine list. And Andre was having PTSD. Then I think Cornet was like, oh, let's get the sommelier. And the guy was like, oh, what's a sommelier? Oh, a sommelier is someone who can help you choose the right wine. They'll understand, what are you having? What do you like? And they'll pair it really well.
And Andre's like,
just the $15. No. And then sommelier came over and just started asking questions. Again, like the guide, like a good builder, what is it that you're trying to achieve here? What's the goal here? What do you like? What do you not like about your existing home that we're going to be renovating? What are you looking to pair it with? What have you enjoyed in the past? Do you like something bold, or heavy, or light, or fruity? And eventually the lady was like, okay, I've got two in mind that I think are really great. Goes away for a few minutes, comes back, 2 bottles, tries them both. One of them, she goes, oh, this is a wonderful vineyard. This is from a wonderful vineyard down in northern Victoria. There's a couple there that took the vineyard over about 20 years ago, and they've been, putting their own, hands, blood, sweat, and tears into this property, and it's beautiful. It's really blossomed, and the wine's exquisite. This is how they make it, and I can just imagine them sitting on their porch up on the hill, just enjoying that glass of red, like you said, the view, looking over the vineyard as the sun's setting. Amazing, and the 4 of them were just like, wow. Oh, there's a second bottle. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a story with the wine.
Second bottle. This is a Sicilian wine. They make it like this. Which one would you like? I know we all really resonate with the first one. We'll get that one.
Yeah.
No problem. Off she goes. Oh, we didn't even ask how much it was.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're like, you know what? We're here for the experience. That's why we're here. Let's get it.
Yep.
Amazing night. That was like, I don't know, 3 years plus ago maybe, and they still talk about that night. Long story short, the wine was $45 a glass.
I was going to say, so Biz Videos is still paying off the mortgage.
The experience was that much better. And they deemed the whole experience. You ask Andre, I'm sure he had a wonderful time with his wife at dinner, but that time was just like a whole another level, simply because of the experience that sommelier, the guide, and he used that story at the recent event when he shared, because it really highlights the role a builder can play. If you can really guide someone through their project, they're going to deem the value so much greater. And in many cases, they'll be willing to part with more of their money and feel like I'm actually getting a better experience. Like if you looked at a $15 glass versus a $45 glass, you're looking at a 3X. But you might ask Andre, the experience would be more than 3X.
And how many times have you guys floated about how good that either the wine is or the restaurant mainly?
Yeah.
Right? So you referred and no doubt someone else has gone there too and had the same experience.
They took me there.
Yeah.
And it's good. Yeah. Really good. But it just is such a great story of the role I think a builder can play.
Yeah.
If they're willing to. And that comes back to that product, like we talked about, the Secon product.
Yeah.
It's all that. It's everything that comes into when you operate with us, rather than we can do the same four walls, because at the end of the day, you can order the same floorboards that another builder can order from the same place.
It, yeah. And that goes to builders, if they want to differentiate themselves, it's the level of service that you're delivering at the front, middle, like during the build, and the back end, because that leaves that's a memorable experience for the client, which means, if you get asked, do you have a builder that you can refer? Yeah, like straight away, because you've had a good experience.
Yeah, totally.
Or if you see the guy down the road with the fence falling over, the shit blowing down the road and stuff like that, you're like, don't use them.
Yeah. Then that comes into that brand.
Or if you didn't come back for that service call, or if you didn't respond back to an email, or if you didn't, if you weren't polite, like if you told the client, jam it or something like that because you were pissed off in the moment, bugger all chance of getting referred again.
Oh yeah, totally. And I'm sure we've all had experience. I know I've recently had one where I've worked with someone in the past outside of this industry, and at the time they were amazing. Now 2 years on, I want to get in touch with them to potentially do something again with them. Hard to contact, hard to get back to me on anything, and it's like, man, I've referred them a lot of work, and of late I'm not so inclined.
And then you're not getting it back. Like,
yeah. So, in terms of wrapping this podcast up, because there's no doubt, I know for a fact there's a lot of gold in this one for anyone listening to it. One thing that we really want to start encouraging is the future, making sure that the future is never painted bleak, but focusing on the opportunity there. For a younger guy, maybe just starting out his business or a couple of years in, you being a bit further along, what feedback or what advice would you offer in terms of an area to focus on upskilling themselves in or improving when it comes to their business and operations?
I think consistency, like we spoke about, and just service. That level of service. They might be the carpentry background or another trade background, or they might just be like contract admin, project management. It's a level of service, because it's the impression you leave on someone that matters the most. You're only good as your last project. So the level of service you go to, and it is hard too, because you as a builder, you wear so many hats. You got to get back, your project managing, your contract admin, your accounts, you're sometimes a HR manager. If there's one thing that you can just put 5%, just a little bit more effort in every day, it's that willingness to get back to a client or inquiry or a neighbour. It's because all those little moments in time pay dividends.
Yeah, that's just to like reinforce that that idea of like, what does the connection feel like in those moments with that person? Because at the event we were recently at, a guy by the name of Rick Rushton spoke, and he talks all about communication and connection.
Yeah.
And one thing he emphasized was like, how does the person feel walking away from that interaction with you?
Yeah. How did you make that person feel?
Yeah.
And you're great at it. And that's why, the boys have got you in this position. So you're pretty face, but also polite, and also, you can communicate really well. So it leaves an impression, a good impression. And, your follow up of just a nice text message. Hey, hope you have an awesome day. You know what? You don't get that often. You really don't. So that's a standout. You by doing that is making you stand out. So as a builder, just put that 5%, a little bit more effort in like you do, and you're a standout.
Thank you, Peter.
Pleasure, mate.
Right. And a big thank you for coming on today and sharing a lot of that liquid gold. That's
always a pleasure coming in here.
Yeah, really, really good. And I think we're heading off now to
chicken sandwich.
Chicken sandwich.
Best chicken sandwich on the Gold Coast, tart.
There we go. Maybe post them in that little short there.
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome, Peter. Thank you very much, man.
Thanks, guys.
If you liked today's discussion with Peter, make sure to check out his previous podcast where we filmed on site, where he shared his backstory, plus specific insights on managing teams and operations in the field. It's the perfect companion to today's deep dive into the systems and mindset that drives his success.